Welcome back to Rubbin'minds. Now, it's no longer news that Nigerians are having to stretch every naira and kobo, perhaps as a fallout of some of the decisions made by this administration in the removal of subsidy on petroleum products, in floating the naira. Nigerians have had to pay double, triple, quadruple to afford the basic amenities. I mean, who would have thought that a bag of rice will sell for over 100,000 naira? And we're made to believe that these are some of the reforms that are necessary to set us up for economic growth, for infrastructural development. But again, Nigerians are asking, almost 2 years into this administration, when do we see the light at the end of the tunnel? When do these prices come down? Will we see the petrol price come down to 200, 400, 300, or perhaps it will go over 1,000 naira? And the same with the dollar naira conversation, with the price of food. To answer some of these questions that we all have is someone who is known to a lot of us on social media as the online banker. He's also an economic analyst, Stanley Onwara. Welcome to Rubbin'minds.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's amazing to be here.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. Now, I'm sure like every Nigerian, you're also feeling the heat of some of these economic reforms. Food inflation, that affects everybody. It's the cost of an egg or a bag of rice. It's almost unimaginable. Are we hoping to see some of these prices come down based on some of the maybe macroeconomic indices, maybe some of the policies and reforms? Does this translate into lower food prices?
So I would say for a lot of Nigerians, like you rightly said, everyone wants to know what is going to happen next. And I would be telling a lot of Nigerians that we've hit the bottom. And there's only one way to go. Because in every cycle, you have the boom and bust cycle. We've hit the worst of the burst. And we are going to see a moderation going forward. Inflation, which is what has, characterized the price of food and all. You notice something, that the price of fuel is moderating. The price of items are moderating. We're already used to items being at a certain level. Now, with a reduction in certain prices, like we expect that global oil prices to drop, and then that translates into even lesser fuel for others. Then people are getting used to alternative energy. The amount they're looking for other ways to make their products cheaper and find a way to deliver those goods to the average Nigerian at a lesser price. And then the government is actively trying to get into agriculture. You will notice that over the past few months, you wouldn't have heard a lot about the clashes and the header incidences that we had that were preventing farmers from going to the market. So we expect that moderation to start to take effect from the second quarter of this year and heading to the end of the year. And then the naira stabilizing to the same level that people can use to forecast. Because that's another thing that's making a lot of people not to be able to. If I expect that my prices increase by next year by 100% in the next few months, I'm just going to mark up my prices so that I can restock. But if I can have a stable price that I can use to forecast, then that helps too in the prices for items. So we expect things to moderate going forward. I
hear you saying moderation. Moderation is, it means it remains the same. Meaning if we're used to purchasing petrol at 930, 970, is likely to remain there. But is there any indication that it will go from moderation to reduction, where perhaps some of these reforms, we refine locally? What's the impact of that? There are more farmers returning to the farms. Yes. There are more roads being built. Infrastructure is getting better. So how does that now affect the prices actually coming down? If we're exporting more, we're earning more USD, we're saving on what would have gone on into paying fuel subsidy, then surely that excess or surplus should lead to a deduction, a reduction.
So, like I say on my platform, calm down, let me explain.
Thank you.
So, like you rightfully said, there's something called economics of scale. Like, let's take, for example, the Dangote refinery, which is one of Nigeria's most important infrastructure right now. In as much as a private firm, the more he ramps up production, the more he goes around with there is going to be economies of scale. He's producing at a scale that he can say, I can take out 300, I can take out 15 naira, I can take out 20 naira, because my production level has gotten to this peak, and then the components that I'm using are reduced because I don't need to bring in extra. The system is already set. So it's called economics of scale. That's why when you want to print items with some of those printers, they tell you that, if you're printing 5,000 copies, the price comes down to 17 naira. If you're already printing 1,000 copies, the price comes to maybe like 20 something naira. So you see the difference in that. So that economics of scale is what is likely going to bring down. You've heard the news that as of yesterday, day before yesterday, Dangote Refinery said they were bringing down the petrol prices down to 890 as opposed to 900 and something. So you expect that to continue to moderate. And then the global oil prices affect the refined product. And then we're seeing other refineries that are supposed to come up that we've been hearing of. The federal government has said they opened up the Port Harcourt refinery. We're still hearing them saying they're coming up, ramping up production along other places. These are all the indices. And then infrastructure. As the infrastructure improves, people can transport their goods. Part of what we are paying for in high cost is taxes. The tax on bad infrastructure. If I'm going to send my truck from here to Kano, from Lagos to Kano, and it's going to spend 2 days, I'm going to factor in the food that the driver, the people that he's going to, settle on the road, the fuel cost. But if it's going to only take him, say, 12 hours to get to Kano, then I know that cost is taken away from me, and then it affects the final consumer. So that when I talk about moderation, I mean that it's going to either stay at the same level. It's going to stay at the same level. We're going to see lower prices towards the end of the year. But for now, we are where we are.
And what should Nigerians be doing during this time? Should we be saving? Should we be looking to diversify our streams of income? How can we survive Nigeria?
So I would advise a lot of Nigerians. One of the things that I've highlighted in Nigeria is the knowledge gap, and it's a skill problem. What most of us were used to, the world is changing fast, and we need to adapt to that. I don't know if the government has brought out initiative, but there's a lot that the government is filled with bureaucracy. But it now comes up to you taking the initiative. The world is moving very fast. We have the likes of AI that is disrupting things at the speed of light. So how are you upskilling yourself? How are you taking advantages of the internet? The internet has become the biggest market space. It's the greatest employer of labor now. It's no longer agriculture and all that it used to be. It's now the biggest employer of labor. Now, by the time you upskill yourself, you can have that extra income that you can now plow back into having a farm, or having a small startup, so you now have that extra income. Now you have 2 streams of income. But one thing I will tell most Nigerians is find a way to upskill yourself. Don't go about, you can start up your own business. Upskilling will help you. Even while you start up your business, it will help you run your business way better. We need more skills. We need people to upskill themselves. In 2025, I'll tell you, upskill yourself.
I'd like to take you back to your earlier answer, and you spoke about Nigerians finding creative ways to make replacements for certain things to keep the cost down. For example, using solar instead of running your electric bill. Now, let's say you have 70,000 naira a month. Can you realistically survive on 70,000 naira and still upskill and save? Can you break it down for us?
If my advice, so I would take the advice that I'm talking to someone that has 70,000 naira monthly, which is the minimum wage, right? What I would tell you is, I will not tell you to take that money and save. I wouldn't tell you to take that money and invest in the business. You don't need to do stocks, bonds, real estate. You don't need that. Take that money and pay for a course that will give you, that course is going to give you 200,000 naira. So for example, if you say, I want to take a course on food processing, or I want to take a course on freelancing, or I want to take a course on AI, automotive generative energy, or something on the internet. Now, by the time you're done with that, you're going to find people that are willing to pay you $100, $200 for that skill that you've learned. $200 now at the rate of 1,000 or 1,600.
I hear you invest in a skill that will help you maybe earn double or triple. But can we break it down? 70,000 naira. This person probably is married, has 2 kids, paying school fees, has to transport themselves to the office. So let us know how much of that should we spend on transportation, on food, on this upskilling, and maybe
I hear you. So it's a difficult. It's a problem of being in between the deep sea and a hard place. And for most of those Nigerians, which I have seen, it's a matter of finding priorities. What I have come to notice for the people that earn below at minimum wage is finding work that is, first of all, closest to you. I've seen people reject jobs that were slightly higher in pay, but by the time you factor in your transportation costs, you realize that you're spending the total money you have on transportation. So they are taking similar jobs in their own locality. That way you save on transportation.
So, but how much will you say will go towards transportation? 70,000 now.
It depends on where you stay. I can't opt for alternative transportation because we do not have that. So I'm speaking realistically. So you find a place closest to where you stay. If I will advise anyone that earns within that range, if you're working, say you're working in Surulere and you're working on the island, find a place now that still has the same offer around Surulere. So what it does is that it cuts your transportation cost, whatever you used to have, by half or even way less than that, or a place that you can easily walk to. That saves you on transportation. Then for food, I do not joke with nutrition because it's important. Health is wealth. No matter how much you have, if you do not have health, it's nonsense. So you'd, as much as possible, try to find the best way to nourish yourself. They say hard times, brings out the best in people. I'm seeing people bringing in advances in ways that they can survive, have like a small home garden and all. That's for those people at that stage. And then you now have to find a way, when we talk about upskilling, find a way that you can earn more. At that level, I will not tell you take out your money and go and pay for one course and your family goes to starve. No.
So that's home garden. I have a home garden, and maybe after I've grown it for 2 weeks, I can pluck ugu, and it might not even be enough to cook a pot of soup. So for someone who is earning 70,000 naira, probably lives in a room and parlor with their 2 kids, the home garden might not really work. So what are like tangible ways that they can actually stretch that 70,000 naira to still meet up with school fees, transport, food, health, and sometimes you have to send money to your parents and they'll actually be. So
if I would give a practical example, number one, like I mentioned, health is your most important asset. Take out 5,000 naira. Take out 5,000 naira and pay for health insurance. There's a health insurance. I know certain banks in Nigeria, I know Access Bank has something like that has a 5,000 naira health insurance. What it covers for you is that you can cover at least malaria and certain like basic ailments.
So 5,000 on health.
On health. That covers your health insurance. Then you can take out 10,000 naira and go to the closest bulk market around you. Closest bulk, not the market, the closest bulk market. Find the way that you can buy in bulk. The closest bulk markets you'll notice that there's like a 20% reduction in the amounts that you can buy for food so that you can store for long term, helps you in planning. Then for transportation, you can find out the people, it's a time that you need, it's desperate time, so you need desperate measures. Find the people around you that move in the same direction as you do on a daily. You can find a way to say, oh, bros, I don't really have this, but can I follow you up? If you can do that on a day-to-day, while you still look for a place closest to you, you've saved on transportation. Then for schools, you do not need to pay for schools that are way beyond you. Find a way to get schools that are closest to you. Now, if your spouse isn't working, or if your spouse's salary doesn't cover your school fees, you should find a way to make your spouse become some sort of like a backup teacher for quality education. What that does for you is that you've taken out the money that you're paying for school fees and you brought it back into the home. Because yes, you still need to pay salary.
So they'll go to a public school.
You find a way of going to a public school and then you augment at home. That way you can still have the balance of, okay, your children are in school and then you're augmenting at home. So if you can have this like little approaches, you notice that at the end of the month, you're almost sufficient with that while still trying as much as possible to increase your earning.
Thank you so much for sharing all those practical tips. And we hope that Nigerians will be able to implement these things. Thank you, Stanley, Honora.
Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show